everybody, my name's Link, here to talk about how I really underestimated this anime. I don't know what others think of me, but I do consider myself an artist. And I know better than anyone else that I'm not doing nearly enough to cultivate my skills and practice in those that I'm lacking. And while I will be the first to admit that, I would rather not have a show call me out on it. Most especially because I just had an unreasonably long break. So that's exactly why I've been putting this anime off, as I know that anime can tend to be a tad bit preachy about its things, and I have to see hot-blooded teens do something I do, but with much more enthusiasm and success. Though, considering the subject matter of the show, and how I'm more intimately acquainted with it rather than, say, being a magical chosen one that can somehow attract every hot babe within my vicinity, and we use the power of friendship to kill a dragon or whatever, I might be a bit more serious and speak from my heart rather than my ass like I usually do. I'll try to throw in a joke here and there for you kiddies, but will forewarn y'all that I'll be speaking from genuine passion. Passion. Get used to hearing that word a lot. Okay, what the hell is this enigmatic anime about anyway? Blue Period follows the story of Yaguchi Yatora, a high school delinquent that stays out late to drink and smoke and also has straight A's at school. Because despite the nonchalance he liked to display, he was a painful realist that wanted to be set for life, starting with going to a regular college to aim for a high-paying job. But despite having decided his entire life plan at the ripe old age of 17 or something, I bet you could never. He actually felt nothing every day and was just going by the motions. That is until a painting entranced him enough to the point that he was willing to abandon his stable, cushy, and stress-free life plan to be the complete opposite, an art student. And he's now determined to get into a prestigious art college. And wow, remember how I said I didn't want to be preached at by a teen? At the beginning, Yatora almost gave me those vibes. And I was thinking how there's nothing more annoying than seeing a gifted character do your craft and ace it without a hitch. But it's also setting up that he would have either really sucked at it for the first time in his life and get massively inspired, or art is gonna be something that finally gets him excited and think it's worth exerting the effort for. And well, I was pretty much right on all those fronts. But I will say that he wasn't as he first seemed. He's actually extremely humble, almost to a fault, and that the story goes at lengths to express that he's not naturally talented. Just a kid with anxiety that's too scared to stop drawing in his uphill battle to catch up with his peers that have been practicing art for way longer than he has, as he basically banked his entire future on his newfound passion. And Yatora is pretty indomitable. He's definitely a careful and practical kind of character, so it speaks levels at how much passion he has for his new craft to go for the art college with the odds stacked against him. And that is the heart of the show, the powerful and beautiful manifestation of one's passion. It's an absolute roller coaster ride of when you first find something that the mere act of doing gives you joy. You may have it. It may not exactly be drawing. It could be music, writing, or maybe even sports. And if you don't have one, that's alright too, as the story can perfectly portray the overwhelming tidal wave of wanting to do something you enjoy. And before we go any deeper, I really need to put a disclaimer out there that what he's doing, it's not smart. I'll never be the one to tell you to not follow your dreams, but just realize that this anime is built different. The hours and effort he puts into studying art just to catch up is inhuman, even compared to his supporting characters who all probably spent a good chunk of their life practicing art to an already laborious extent. And even in the anime, it shows lengths of how much stress and strain it puts on him both mentally and physically. Do not take Yatora's practices as something common. I don't want a single one of you thinking you can sacrifice your health like this fictional character can. He's not a role model. The anime can pretty it up and make it seem like it's worth it, but we don't entertain that kind of crunch culture on this channel. Okay, clear? Back to the point. I can't think of another show that has perfectly encapsulated the feeling of realizing your passion for the very first time. And yes, that includes Shirobako, animators' love letters to their work that's more nuanced to my personal experience because, hey, did you know I was an animation student and worked on a few small-time shows? This is one of the few stories where you can literally feel the heart beating within it, because they were no doubt taken from personal experiences, if not slightly dramatized for the sake of entertainment. I felt like I was looking at a time-traveling mirror, as I could see Little Link's eyes light up at the prospect that images can be made by her own hands, and my entire art journey flashed before my eyes. The anime sings some true bells about making craft. How you really can't deny when someone is enjoying or putting effort into their work, as those feelings can communicate for the person consuming the piece, despite how rough it may seem. And how learning art makes one more spatially aware seemingly overnight. Did you know that the leaves had hues of brown in them? Or how the green roof you always see outside of your window can change color depending on the time of day? Learning to appreciate the imperfections and just the beingness of the place you live in, even if it was the smallest crack in your bedroom wall. And even delving into the more abstract and hard to explain practices of creating art, including the most popular one, which I like to call learning the rules before breaking them. Or maybe a more well-known derivative is a good artist copies, a great artist steals. Do I have the qualifications to explain to non-artists to chill out and to not jump at my throat to say that what I just said is bad practices? No. Will I try? Here we go. Take this example then, a human body. There are definitely commonality amongst most the human physique. I'm not saying all, but a sizable number have 2 arms, 2 legs, a face that has a nose, 2 eyes, a mouth, etc. I'm sure you can imagine what a human looks like. Everyone is taught these basics, and a lot of artists start out studying people from real life as reference. But with that logic, why isn't all modern art hyper-realistic with proper planes and values? And we have art like these that aren't built like humans, but you can identify as humans. Well, it's because these artists have studied the human body and then broke whatever they learned into their own style. And now, my lovely viewer, you ask, what is a style in art? It is whatever the artist is adept in. And they gain these styles by drawing over and over again, copying pieces of art from other people, and then taking elements of that art that they liked and owning it. For example, our hypothetical artist liked how someone else drew eyes. They learned how to draw like that, and it's their skill now. They liked how another artist drew the face shape as angular or as round as they did. Our artist takes that in as well, until they eventually took all these different elements from different artists and then tied them all together with their own signature flair. It's a very common way an artist develops their art identity, and nothing to be ashamed about as they learn and grow in their craft. Hopefully that helped non-artist and newbie artist viewers, and if not, you can check out the anime for a more in-depth look. But I think the edge it has over Shirobako is that it doesn't hesitate to really claw its way into showing the ugly of having a passion too. Truly linger on the never-ending cycle of improving your craft. It could be something minor, like Yatara mentioning how he got back and shoulder pains on just the first day of art class, which, upon hearing it, made my entire body creak, to the inherent frustration of feeling like you're not good enough. It's a popular joke amongst artists that 50% of their fuel to create is spite. And the sole motivator to be better is just the nagging unsatisfaction with the limits of what you can do. Because, unlike with most things we've grown accustomed to, there's no right answer with art. You can't answer it like if your teacher asked you what the powerhouse of the cell is, or what are the first 20 numbers of pi. And once again, unlike with most stuff we're taught in school, there isn't a final exam or a deadline that you can aim to pass and then you can sit back knowing you're done with that. No. Even if the anime had an exam in particular Yatara was aiming to pass, there was never an indication that that was the end goal. If anything, it was just another step to go deeper into the ever-expanding void that he has to waddle through in order to get better, and better, and better. And while it sounds like hell actually, this hell is fueled only by his desire to fulfill his passion, an intangible thing that can have very real and physical repercussions. It can sound so frustrating because you can never know where you're headed. It's overridden by your urge to chase after a tail you can only vaguely see in the dark. and even delves into something so deeply personal to artists, as every single one of us has or would eventually feel lost and feel like our art lacks that spark from when we first started, as it gets bogged down with technicalities that does improve our skills to reach our vision, but also became too loud and overpowering. We forget the childlike joy that started it all and powered most of our greatest works. But, as the show expertly expresses, at the end of the day, art is about making something you want to make. Nothing else is driving you forward except for the fact that you want to make something you feel you can make. Extremely crude example, but something I feel is easier to understand is fan art of your favorite show or character. You can love an artist for their shading, or their color palettes, or their art style, but realize at the end of the day, they drew these characters because it's something they wanted to see. And we can only count ourselves blessed by being allowed to see the culmination of their fine-tuned skills. And I don't want any arguments about how the artist is doing this for praise and exposure. Of course, an artist has to eat and will do pieces that they don't particularly care for if commissioned or trying to grow an audience. And I'm not gonna be some wisecrack that'll say that you can never burn out when fueled by passion. Otherwise, how can I say I even watched the anime? But the series by this point has made an excellent show that art isn't that easy, and that you'd only fall back on it for monetary gain if you've developed a relationship with it where you're in love with creating. These are inherently creative problems, and it makes me feel so validated and seen when a medium perfectly encapsulated that struggle you couldn't explain to other people over the many years of crafting. And in that last sentence also lies my biggest peeve with the show. Yatora started art near the end of his second year in high school and then passed the prestigious art college exam with an extremely low acceptance rate on his first try. Now don't get me wrong, I know the message the anime has. Art isn't natural-born talent. It's pure hard work, practice, and honing your skill. And the story takes lots of times to remind you that these are just qualities that Yatora has in spades. And that he's not some miracle worker, he's actually just some average Joe. Which feels a bit disingenuous when he's surrounded by his peers who've likely done art much longer than him, and sure they have a better grasp of their identity as an artist, but they're struggling just as much as him and even failing. I know it wouldn't be much fun if you have to watch years of him perfecting his craft like everyone else. As much as I praise it for its realism up until now, I do understand that for the sake of the story, they created this looming deadline for a climactic effect by giving everyone, including the viewer, this sense of urgency that couldn't come from someone who isn't fighting against the odds. And I can respect that the author didn't really want to linger on the small things. So in the span of 3 episodes, Yatora already mastered the basics, as well as convinced his parents that he actually wants to do art despite having set himself up to go to any normal college he wanted with his high grades. Which is honestly the most unbelievable thing in this whole series. The most glaring error Blue Period has made, in my humble opinion, is Yuka. Because the moment they introduced her and revealed her story, I completely lost interest in anything else but her. And no, this isn't discounting everything the author has built up about Yatora. Remember, I can see myself in his shoes as I treaded similar waters as him. It's just that Yuka and her character and story and drama she has added was just so much more interesting. There was a part in the series where Yatora was going through probably the most important part of the anime, and then Yuka appeared and I just instantly went, "Oh my god, I don't care about you anymore. Hello Yuka, how are you? Long time no see, I missed you." I know it's my own fault that I'm looking at an art anime and expecting it to focus on a very serious and personal issue of a supporting character. But the author did such an amazing job at creating her along with her more high-stakes conflicts that I can't help but wish I was watching Yuka instead. Aside from that, I feel like the art in the anime is rather lacking. Nothing that really screams offensive, an error here, a poorly drawn shot there, the usual. What I did notice though was that the series seems rather anemic? That's what you could call it? There are these interesting and impactful expressions sprinkled around the series, and while they feel complex considering the context in which they were made, all I can think about is how much more impactful this scene could have been in the manga. And as usual, I haven't read the manga. I feel like the anime lost a bunch of the spark and life that made the manga great, But call it a testament to the original when the ideas and imagery still calls towards a much grander and evocative representation than what the anime is providing. And with that, I feel like I can close this video out by saying, for once, this anime compels me to read the original source material. I still don't know when I'll have time to do that, but I want to experience the emotional rush this story can provide at its rawest form. I was an animation student, not a fine arts one, but without a doubt, there are overlaps with the experience. And I'm sure the same can apply even if your craft is a completely different medium. On the other side of that coin, I'm sure people who've yet to find their calling would find the series exciting and eye-opening to understand others who have. And that's it for this one, everybody! Drop a comment down below if you're a creative who can relate to the show, or if you're not and it opened your eyes to something. I'm actually incredibly interested in seeing what others have to say about this anime. Check out my other videos where I go over more seasonal anime or anime you might not have heard of. Are they hidden gem or do they deserve to fall into obscurity? Let's find out together. And as always, don't forget to leave a thumbs up if you liked the video and consider subscribing for all things weeb and anime. Bye bye!